What is up YouTube, and welcome to this Hawkeye breakdown and review. We last saw Clint in Endgame get his family back after spending the blip years as Ronin, the brutal persona taking down the world's gangsters. And we are here finally learning more about his time as Ronin, and I do think we really need a MCU The Blip Years TV show. Technically his last appearance was as a photo in Black Widow, with Val sending Yelena after him saying he killed Natasha, which isn't exactly the truth, is it, Ellen? However, like all the shows in the MCU, it's setting up the Young Avengers, as we have Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop. This show is an adaptation of Matt Fraction's landmark Hawkeye comic, which brought me back to reading Marvel Comics after a few years reading things like Saga and many other independent or different kind of companies' comics. Hawkeye is somewhat the Aquaman of the Marvel Universe, as he is joked about having no powers and being just a dude with a bow. But we get shots of the Battle of New York here from other angles, and someone other than the audience thought Hawkeye looked absolutely awesome fighting the Chitauri, as Kate was inspired to be a hero like Clint. Now, she first appeared in Young Avengers #1 in 2005. She was rich, but her father had some dodgy dealings, which she investigated here. And, well, it's similar to her new, or soon-to-be, father-in-law Jack. She would go on to take on the mantle of Hawkeye to honour the original after his death, and would later work with Clint when he was resurrected, helping the citizens of the apartment block he lived in, and she later moved to the West Coast. Now, instead of becoming a badass after being attacked, she has spent her life becoming versed in all martial arts, and we see her get up to no good, breaking the bell and clock at a college and having to come home for the holidays. Clint is also in New York for the holidays with his kids, watching Rogers the Musical, with the poster being very reminiscent of Hamilton, and the musical scenes were some of the best things I think I've seen in the MCU in ages, especially the reprise of I Can Do This All Day. But he clearly still has PTSD and difficulty accepting the fame and gratitude that came with not only saving New York, but also bringing half of the world back to life. It is a world away from being looked down upon in the Matt Fraction comic, and the only kind of path he has to being, kind of getting the benefits of being someone like, Captain America is his Avengers kind of card thing that he has, but he doesn't have that here. We see Kate return home with her mother, played by the iconic Vera Farmiga, and her mate. Well, she absolutely hates her new partner, who is obsessed with collecting swords and is clearly more than who he appears to be, as of course he is the swordsman, as they head to a benefit dinner and she learns how they are getting married from Armand, who seems like an absolute dickhead, but he sticks around for less than 5 minutes. She looks dope in a black suit and finds her mother arguing with Armand, and he clearly dislikes her and is unhappy she is marrying into the family, and Bishop's security exist, but it remains to be seen what dirty dealings Jack and co are doing with, as she finds them at a black market auction where Jack seemingly doesn't have 3,000k to bid on Ronin's sword, and Armand buys it. These are all things from the Avengers compound for sale, which is kind of surprising, as it looked like Thanos leveled that thing to an absolute atom. Now, the whole thing going on here is it's not long before the tracksuit mafia turn up, and Jack steals Ronin's sword and makes for a good get out, as he can pin the murders on Ronin. Now, like I said, Jack in the comics is the swordsman, and well, here as well. In the comics, he trained a young Clint Barton and fell on rough times, and Clint went on to, of course, join the Avengers. He even tried to sneak into the Avengers team shortly and tried to make amends, but he was just a not good person. And in the comics, Armand was actually his father. The tracksuit mafia also appeared in the Matt Fraction comic and were just low-level thugs trying to squeeze rent rises out of people before Clint buys a building and is in their crosshairs. They then work with a absolute charismatic assassin with a name I can't pronounce, but he had kind of like mime style clown makeup as well, and he was pretty cool, and I'd like to see him in this. They are here after a watch that Echo wants and seemingly sent them after. Now, obviously, Echo is working for someone, but who is she working for? If we're going to go with the MCU, I would predict that she is, of course, working for Yelena, but of course, her sort of adoptive father was Kingpin in the comics. Kingpin killed her father, and then he gaslit her to convince her that it was Daredevil, leading to a romantic entanglement, and then later on she became the Ronin. However, they come into conflict with Kate, and she saves a dog who in the comics was called Lucky, and it's so cool that he is here. Later, Ahmad is killed by Jack, but considering they are very off-script with the comics, it's hard to predict where he will go next. Later, Ahmad is killed with it being pinned on the Ronin, as Kate is saved by Clint, which was very, very cool. I have to say, I didn't expect this to be so good, but Haley Steinfeld, along with Renner, really added a lot of fun to this show. As we move into episode 2, Kate fangirls over Clint, who wants to get home and be with his family, but he wants to know who the heck she is. Now, the whole scene with him saving her just at the end of episode 1 was really, really neat. Now, Ronin has made some powerful enemies, possibly even people like the Kingpin, and I hope that we see Daredevil at some point in this show, considering it should end after Spider-Man No Way Home. She is in awe of Clint, and the banter between the pair is hilarious. The show does feel like a lot like Daredevil or Season 1 Jessica Jones, as she calls herself the world's greatest archer, and she goes to get in the apartment while being attacked by the tracksuit mafia, who have found her and burned the place down. The roles are reversed, and the apartment is abandoned as they head to her aunt's place, and the mafia are very, very comic book accurate, and even say bro, which is hilarious, and they really do kind of capture the essence of these characters on screen here. And she even says that the name is a bit on the nose, which is pretty funny. Now, Clint had beef with them, and in the past, as Ronin, he definitely did kind of cause them all sort of trouble, and I could see some sort of John Wick or Warriors moment with many factions all after him at once. Wouldn't it be cool if the end episode was him having to get out of New York with people like the Hand and others after him, as well as the Mafia? We also get a mention that Tony sold Avengers Tower. Theories in the comments please on who is the buyer. I am going with Reed Richards. After the apartment was burnt, Clint heads back to get the year, but heads back to learn that it was a LARPer who was mocked for his gear and finally stole a good set. It's easily the worst part of the episode, or 2 episodes in my opinion, but they are sticking to the street level problems that Hawkeye had there in the comic. Interestingly, the police do contact Kate, setting up a story for later as Clint gets his stuff back and Kate has dinner with her new stepdad. As the tension does ramp up with them fencing, she's very good, but he's better, and so good that he can make it look like he isn't that good. But he shows his hand when he goes for the unguarded face, or she goes for the unguarded face, sorry. Of course, he is the swordsman and pretty much confirms so much by him offering her a monogrammed butterscotch that she saw earlier in Armand's place. However, they both end up captured and we see the Mafia go to Echo. Now, like I said, we know Echo is getting her own series, and she first appeared in Daredevil number 9 in 1999. She was raised by Kingpin and made to be a living weapon. It's interesting that she did become Ronin and was then kidnapped by the Hand, and maybe the Man Without Fear is being set up here. But that is it for this video. Please drop a like down below. Do subscribe with notifications on if you want more from us. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you soon, and goodbye.